Hi friends, we now take up the second part of the chapter biodiversity. Right, if you've seen the first video, we had stopped, we had completed till patterns of biodiversity, and now we take the topic ahead. Okay, fair. Now, the next question which is there in front of us is, why is species diversity so important to the ecosystem? Why are we stressing upon this diversity? Does it really matter to the functioning of the ecosystem, that how many number of species are present in this ecosystem? Or does it really matter if there are 20,000 species of ants, or maybe 15,000, right? 15 5,000 अगर कम भी है तो क्या, does it really make any difference? And why we are, why these numbers are so important to us? Now, ecologists are of the belief that communities, oh, again, I forgot my, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Communities with more species generally tend to be more stable. So, more the species diversity in a community, more stable is the community. Now, how do you define a stable community? A stable community, now the author has given three criteria for a stable community. It should not show too much variation in productivity from year to year. Now, in the previous video, I did tell what is productivity, the rate at which photosynthesis is occurring right now. So every community will have its share of producers right now. So every community will have some quantity of photosynthesis being done collectively pura. So there should not be too much of variation in that productivity from year to year. And you see, productivity we are going to talk about in the chapter of ecosystem in much detail. That is the first point. Second, the community should be resistant. It should be able to defend itself to occasional disturbances, either natural or man-made disturbances. It should not so happen that there's a natural disturbance and the entire community, gets destroyed. It should be able to resist that. That is what a stable community is. And it should be resistant to invasion by alien species. Before you start thinking about the UFOs and all that, right now, alien species, species which do not belong to this community, right now, species which belong within this community will be native. और जो दूसरी कम्युनिटी से यहाँ पे आएगा उसको हम क्या बोलेंगे? एलियन. रिमेंबर वी हैड टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट प्रीडेटर में, if you remember that moth wala example, right now? Okay, so if there is an invasion by an alien species, the community must be able to resist that, right? So these are 3 points which define a stable community. And what is one of the factors which makes the community stable? If there are more species in that community. So the diversity is important to the stability of a community. Now, the author is very frank enough to mention that we don't know how these attributes are linked to species. These are observations. These are only observations that this is what makes a community stable. Now, there have been attempts to understand this, right? Now, David Tillman's long-term ecosystem experiments using outdoor plots, it can provide some answers. What did Tillman found? That plots with more species showed less year-to-year variation in total biomass. Biomass किससे बनेगा? Productivity से बनेगा. So where species diversity was more, the year-to-year variation in productivity was less. So stable community का पहला criteria fulfill हो रहा था. So increased diversity was contributing to higher productivity. Now this was the finding of David Tillman. Although we may not understand how species richness is contributing to the well-being, we realize that rich biodiversity is not only essential for ecosystem health, but also for survival of the human race on this planet. As I said, really, right now, does it really matter if a few species become extinct? We are finding that, we are having a lot of species becoming extinct very fast. We will talk about in the next 5, 7 minutes about extinction, right? Does it really matter if out of 20,000 species of ants, 5,000 become extinct? Out of 4,810 species of frogs, maybe 800 disappear. Does it really matter to our existence? Does it make any difference to us? Now, here, Paul Ehrlich, uh, he presents a rivet popper hypothesis. It's an analogy, it's a hypothesis, right? There's no experiment done. He's just worked out a hypothesis. Now he's compared the ecosystem to an airplane. Now what he says that an airplane, the different parts of a plane are joined by small rivets. Right now you can just say small screws, rivets. Similarly, an ecosystem is made up of its species. So rivets have been, right, compared to species. Now, if the passengers start removing a rivet one by one, right ना एक एक करके घर पे लेके जाएंगे. In the initial stage तो कुछ नहीं होगा, but in the long run it start affecting the stability. थोड़ा dangerous हो जाएगा. Similarly, if the species start getting extinct, in the long run it will not affect. In the initial stages it will not affect, but in the long run it will affect the system, making it fragile. Right? This is the first analogy. Second, more important, which rivet is removed is more important. Right now, if you remove the rivet of a seat, it will not affect the stability of the overall stability of the airplane. But if the rivets of the wings are removed, it will affect it immediately. Similarly, if the key species of an ecosystem get extinct, then the stability of the ecosystem will get disturbed. So this is called as the rivet popper hypothesis given by Paul Ehrlich, where he is bringing this analogy between airplane and the ecosystem. Now, coming on to the loss of biodiversity. See, first is to admit that there is a loss, right? Then to find out that what are the reasons for this loss and what are the remedies and how to actually, you know, prevent further loss of biodiversity. Whereas now, accusing finger is clearly pointing to human activities. Okay, because of human activity, the biodiversity is getting declined. The IUCN Red List, again, this is 2004 ka document. It is documenting the extinct of 784 species in the last 500 odd years. Some examples also have been mentioned, right? Tropical Pacific islands, right? When humans started colonizing, right? They started forming colonies on those Pacific islands. It has led to extinction of more than 2,000 species of native birds. Some examples of recent extinctions: the dodo in Mauritius, the quagga in Africa, thylacine in Australia, the stellar sea cow Russia, and three subspecies of tiger, the Bali, the Javan, and the Caspian subspecies of tiger. Right? These are more recent in nature. Groups like amphibians, they appear to be more vulnerable to extinction. Right? More than 15,500 species worldwide are facing the threat of extinction. As I said, certain groups are more vulnerable to extinction. Bird species 12%, mammal species 23, gymnosperms 31, and 32 amphibian. We just mentioned that amphibians are more vulnerable to extinction, so that's why they are amongst the highest category. Now, overall, in the eras gone by, there have been 5 massive episodes of extinction. Uh, don't get overawed by all these names. We will be doing them when we do the chapter on evolution. Right now, the geological time period. What are the eras? What are the periods? What are the epochs? Right now, ये सब आएगा अपने को आगे. Right now for us is ये we are in the quaternary phase right now. ये देखिए यहाँ पे today लिखा हुआ है. उसके पहले, right from the inception of these time, there have been 5 massive episodes of extinction. The last being at the Cretaceous, right? ना ये tertiary Cretaceous के बीच में दिख रहा 65 when dinosaurs got extinct, right? That was the last fifth episode of extinction. So we are right now in the sixth episode of extinction. The sixth episode is already undergoing. The only difference in the sixth and the previous 5 episodes is this sixth one is 100 to 1000 times faster than the previous 5 episodes. Right now, so the ecologists are predicting that अगर यही speed से extinction चलता रहा, so in the next about 100 200 years, half the species on Earth would disappear. And mind you, so many of the species still not have been discovered only. And discover होने के पहले ही they will get extinct. So first step is admitting that there is a loss of biodiversity, and then we can address this problem. Now, what are the effects of the loss of biodiversity? We find there is decline in plant production. There is lowered resistance to environmental disturbances, perturbations of disturbances. Increased variability, right? हमने क्या बोला stable ecosystem कब होगा? जब productivity में variation नहीं आएगा. तो अगर loss है biodiversity का, species का number कम हो रहा है, so obviously variation आने लगेगा in plant productivity, right? Water use, pest and disease cycle, everything is going to change, right? We did see a locust swarm coming in the land, right? Now, that's not a very often occurrence, and ecologists are now attributing it to loss of biodiversity and global warming also. These are all theories, right? So these are three main effects of the loss of biodiversity. Now, 4 causes of this loss have been identified, right? These 4 causes collectively, which are called as the evil four or the evil quartet. The first being habitat loss and fragmentation, right? Loss of habitat and fragmentation of habitat, division of the habitat. Most important cause driving animals and plants to extinction. The most dramatic example of loss of habitat obviously coming from the tropical rainforest, Amazon, right? Amazon, all collectively, all the tropical rainforests were covering 14% of the Earth's land. Today, it's merely 6%. More than half of the tropical rainforests have been wiped out, right? Amazon, some areas of Amazon are still undergoing burning, right? Now, so there is loss of habitat, right? We did see big bushfires in Australia, and so many species, right? The numbers have come in the papers around a million species right now. Animals, not the species, the number of animals that come, which have been lost in those fires, right now. So, tropical rainforest, example of habitat loss. Besides total loss, the degradation of habitats by pollution also threatens the survival. And as I said, fragmentation, right? Now, जब एक बड़े habitat को you divide it into parts purely for human activity करने के लिए, right? Now, for convenience of humans. So what happens? Those animals which require larger areas, right? So they migrate from one area to एक ही habitat में, लेकिन migrate करते हैं वो लोग. अब what has happened? You have divided the habitat. You have divided into small fragments, so they can't migrate into other areas now. So that leads to their population decline. So habitat loss and fragmentation is the most important reason. Second is over exploitation. right? Stellar Seacow and passenger pigeon are examples in the last 500 years who have become extinct because of overexploitation of humans. Many of the marine fish populations, fishes in the sea, they are over harvested, over caught, right? Now, endangering the existence of some commercially important species. So when you harvest, you catch them more than what is required, it also is leading to extinction. Third is alien species invasion. As I said, no UFOs, please. Alien is दूसरे area से आया हुआ species. So when alien species, non-native species are introduced unintentionally or deliberately for whatever purpose, some of them turn invasive. We've learned why they become invasive because उसका natural predator नहीं होता है. They cause decline or extinction of indigenous species, native species. So they start affecting the native species, right? Some examples mentioned here in NCRT, the Nile perch introduced in Lake Victoria in East Africa, it led to extinction of 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake. So this was an alien species, whereas this was the native species, right? Environmental damage caused and threat posed to our, here now is referring to India, our native species by invasive weed species like Parthenium, Lantana, and water hyacinth Ecornia. So all these are native? No, alien. So they are harming our native species. The recent illegal introduction of the African catfish called as Clarias garipinus, Clarias garipinus, for aquaculture purposes. Again, it is posing a threat to our indigenous, our native catfishes in our rivers, right? So alien species invasion is also disturbing the balance of our system. And lastly, we've got co-extinction as the cause for loss of biodiversity. When a species become extinct, the plant and animal species associated with it in an obligatory way, right now, when a host fish species become extinct, uska parasite will also have the same fate, right? You know, copepods, ectoparasite on some fishes, right? Already we have discussed plant pollinator mutualism, right now. Plant is dependent on a specific pollinator. The pollinator will get rewards from the plant, right ना? तो ये को एवोल्यूशन में जाता है, लेकिन अगर ये साथ में को इवॉल्व हो सकता है तो को एक्सटिंक्ट भी हो सकता है, राइट? पैरासिटिक कंडीशन में क्या होगा, अगर होस्ट एक्सटिंक्ट हो गया तो उसका एसोसिएटेड पैरासाइट भी, सो दैट्स कॉल्ड एज को एक्सटिंक्शन. सो फोर reasons for the losses: loss of habitat, division of habitat, fragmentation, overexploitation, over of the catching, alien species invasion, and co-extinction. Four causes. Now, why should we be conserving biodiversity? Right now, three causes or three reasons why we should be conserving biodiversity. First, narrow utilitarian causes. Ekdam selfish cause. Why? Because we are having economic benefits. पहले ही बोला था मैंने, right ना? अपना क्या फायदा है in this diversity? We are deriving food in form of cereals, pulses, fruits, right? Plants are giving us that. Firewood मिल रहा है. We're getting fiber, construction material, industrial products we obtain from tannins, lubricants, dyes, resins, perfumes, medicinal important products, right? Now, all these are economic benefits to us from the diversity. Obviously, 25% of the drugs in the market worldwide are derived from plants. 25,000 species of plants contribute to traditional medicines, right? So, isn't this of economic benefit, right? Nowadays, what is happening is more and more companies, right now, they are putting their money into something which is called as bioprospecting. Bioprospecting matlab exploring molecular, genetic and species level diversity. Right now, नया organism discover हुआ, right now. So for a company, a new organism, a new discovery is a prospect. Let us try and discover that at the molecular level, genetic level, species level, क्या कोई economic benefit मिल सकता है क्या? Right now, that is called bioprospecting. So obviously, nations having rich biodiversity can have a lot of enormous benefits, but they should know how should be doing it. Right? So if India has got 8.1% of the world's biodiversity, we should be looking at exploiting this right now in terms of obtaining all of them. Right? So that is narrow cause. एकदम the direct economic benefit मिल रहा है, इसलिए I should be conserving the biodiversity. Next is broadly utilitarian. Now ये थोड़ा अब you know थोड़ा सा अब इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट से ऊपर जा रहे हैं अपन. राइट, Amazon forest through photosynthesis is contributing to 20% of the total oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. 1/5 of the oxygen of the Earth's atmosphere is coming from the forest, Amazon forest. Now, can we put an economic value on this service by nature? इतना सारा ऑक्सीजन सिर्फ यहां से आ रहा है अपने को. Today, when our city is reeling under this pandemic and we are falling shortage of oxygen cylinders, right? Today we have started to feel that pinch, right? Now, अपने को ये total all year round facility मिल रहा है, right? Now, so we can't put an economic value on this service. राइट, वी कांट कैलकुलेट व्हाट इज द वैल्यू. एक सिलेंडर का वैल्यू इतना, 1 लीटर का ऑक्सीजन का इतना वैल्यू है, तो हाउ मच विल बी दैट? नो, वी कांट पुट एन इकोनॉमिक वैल्यू. Pollination is one such service, right? Ecosystem is providing, right now, right? We have learned what is pollination. We know what are pollinators and what kind of service they give. So we can't put an economic value on the service of pollination, right? And as such, other, watching spring flowers in full bloom, right now, pleasures of walking through the thick woods. Now, you can't put a price tag on such things, right? These are broadly utilitarian. अब थोड़ा selfish से ऊपर उठते हैं. And lastly, ethical, right? All the plants, animals, microbes, right, with whom we share this planet, we need to realize that every species has an intrinsic value. अपने इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट का हो या ना हो, it has a particular value to this structure of the ecosystem, and we have a moral duty to take care for their well-being and pass on this legacy, biological legacy, in proper order to our future generations. Right now, so 3 reasons why we should be conserving. एक तो purely अपना economic benefit है इसलिए. Second, a lot of services to which we can't put an economic value or price tag. And third, that we are sharing this planet with all the other species, and we can't alone hijack this entire ecosystem. The last question which remains is, how should we conserve it? And what are the steps for that? Now, 2 methods of conservation are there in front of us. One is in situ conservation, or on site. यानी जहां पे that species is present, you try to conserve it in its own original habitat. But in the habitat, if the animal or plant is endangered, threatened, high risk of extinction in the wild, right now, then you need to take it out of its natural habitat. You have to place it in an artificial habitat to conserve that particular organism. That is called ex situ conservation. Ex situ. So we have in situ and ex situ conservation. Now, in situ में we have something called as biodiversity hotspots, right? So areas which have got high levels of species richness, we mentioned Western Ghats, right now. So छोटे से area में species richness बहुत high है. High degree of endemism. The species are confined to that region only, not found anywhere else. A particular type of a frog, let's say for example, found only in the Western Ghats. So हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे? High degree of endemism, right? So these spots are termed as hotspots. So initially 25 biodiversity hotspots were identified, but later 9 more were added. So total number is now 34. Right now, if you go through the Google or some other search engines, you will find that अब ये बढ़ गया रहेगा, right now. Maybe some other areas must have been identified, but the latest data is not there in front of us right now. Three of these hotspots, right now, Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma, Himalaya, our country's exceptionally high biodiversity regions. राइट ना. सो यहाँ पर नंबर ऑफ स्पीशीज भी ज्यादा है और ऐसे स्पीशीज है जो सिर्फ यहां पर मिलते हैं, राइट ना. सो दैट इज व्हाट इज डिफाइनिंग अ हॉटस्पॉट, राइट. सो when you put all these hotspots, 34 hotspots together, the amount of area which they cover is less than 2% of the Earth's land area. Less than 2%. But the number of species they collectively have is extremely high. So, they are under legal protection. These hotspots are under legal protection. And if you protect these hotspots, you could reduce the rate of extinction by 30%. That's a pretty high figure. So one third of the extinctions can be stopped by protecting these hotspots. So first method of in situ is by protecting these hotspots. Then you have certain areas which are very rich in biodiversity. देखो, hotspot was biodiversity rich, but endemism भी था. But यहाँ पर क्या है? You have rich biodiversity, biosphere reserves, right? National parks, wildlife sanctuaries. Again, I'm repeating ये 2004 का data आ रहा है अपने सामने. 14 बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व जो है ना वो 18 हो गए हैं, राइट ना. 90 नेशनल पार्क्स अब जो है अबाउट 103-105 नेशनल पार्क्स आर देयर. 448 wildlife sanctuaries have become 550 odd, right now. The figure can vary from site to site, right now. Biosphere reserve may, areas like Sundarban in West Bengal, right? I'm just citing the more famous ones. National park may, you all know Corbett wala National Park, right now. Wildlife sanctuaries may, the Rann of Kutch is the biggest wildlife sanctuary in India, right? So we have biodiverse richness, so they are under absolute legal protection, and very minimalistic human activities allowed in these areas, right? So second is giving protection to these areas. Now third is, related to more of culture and tradition. Uh, some certain plants, were worshipped by certain people. So huge areas of forest were set aside, and all the trees and wildlife within were venerated. Venerated का मतलब they were worshipped. So they were given total protection. So that was also one of the ways that in situ protection was done, in situ conservation was done. Now these are areas where these sacred groves are located. Some of the examples have been mentioned here. So in situ में तीन है: hotspots, biosphere reserve, national park, ये biodiversity rich regions and sacred groves. Ex situ, I told you, ex situ में क्या करेंगे? Whatever the threatened animals or plants are there, right now, they are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in a special setting where they can be protected, like a zoological park, like a botanical garden or wildlife safari parks. These are called ex situ methods of conservation. Go methods for cryopreservation. Gametes of certain species can be preserved in viable, fertile condition for long periods. Cryopreservation techniques are where you preserve it under extremely low temperatures. Eggs can be fertilized in vitro. Plants can be propagated using tissue culture methods. So cryopreservation is also one of the methods of ex situ. And finally, seed banks. Seeds of different genetic strains of commercially important plants can be kept for long periods in seed banks, right? So these are ex situ methods of conservation. To just cap the discussion. In situ mein hotspots, these biodiverse rich regions and sacred groves. Ex situ mein parks, botanical gardens, wildlife safari parks, cryopreservation, seed banks. Right. So the discussion has finished for the entire chapter of biodiversity. I hope you have followed the entire discussion. Thank you all. Thank you so much.